Hey guys, we are live. I am gonna go share this really quick with everybody and let them know. And of course, I just sent that off without saying, "Hey, we're lost," because that's helpful. This was actually our book club book for my virtual book club that they chose.
Oh, awesome.
I'm gonna go let them know. Here's for the show. Okay. So guys, thank you of course for coming to author chat. Always a pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Is your name Kalyn?
Yes, Kalyn Josephson.
Yes. Yes.
I know, it looks like Kalyn, huh?
Yeah, and another author that's coming on, her first name is almost exactly the same, but it has a D at the end instead of an N. And I was trying to tag both. I ended up tagging that person instead of you on one of the things. I'm like, delete. Like I swore up and down this was from Catherine Teagan Books when I posted my review on Instagram, and then I just happened to, I'm like, oh no, wait, no, that's Source Books. Whoopsie. Delete, fixed it. It was the Bone Crier's Moon that I finished last night. That was from that publisher. I was like,
okay. You're better off than an author friend of mine. I blurbed her book, and she just told me today that they put together a graphic for it, and they spelled both my first and last name wrong on the graphic.
Oh no!
She's like, I'm making them fix it, but what the heck?
Oh no!
But I get that. I spell my own name wrong sometimes.
There was a time years ago, it makes me feel so old, that I went to sign my name and I just went through like this whole like 3-second thing of where, oh, it's funny, I don't know what my name is too. Holy crap, why don't I know what my name is? And then it just kind of left. It was very, very odd.
Yeah, it's a real feeling.
Well, today, guys, we are here with the author of The Storm Crow, which I just finished. And I got to say, I am so happy that I have book 2 to this, because, like, if I had to wait, I mean, granted, it is only next month, but if I had to wait, I would be crying and sobbing right now, because this thing, I mean, it doesn't kind of technically end on a cliffhanger, but, you know, I mean, we know pretty much everybody is, you know, safe, and we're not, you know, they're not in immediate peril, but I got to know what happened. So how many books are in this series?
So there are only 2. So the one coming out on July 7th is the final book. There's a couple, like, I wrote a bonus scene from Arison's point of view and a short story from Kiva's point of view that are part of the pre-order incentives. So you can get like a little bit more of the world, but otherwise the second book is the end. It's funny though that you say that it kind of ended on a cliffhanger, because that's like one of the biggest surprises for me that I've heard from readers, is people who have been like, and then you ended it on this crazy cliffhanger. And I'm like, I did? And I look back and I'm like,
I don't consider that a cliffhanger.
I guess, but like, in a way it is, in a way it isn't. And you know, the plot of the first book is definitely wrapped up in the Storm Crow, but what's going to happen next is very unclear. And it ends on a high action moment, and I think that's what got a lot of people feeling like, but wait.
It's like, it's not a cliffhanger though. Everybody's safe. Nobody's, you know, we know everybody's alive. Nobody's like bleeding out on the floor. You know. You know, like I finished the shadow one from Lori Forrest, and I'm like, great. Now we know this person's still alive, but we don't know if this person over here is still alive because they left. And I'm like, seriously? We just swap off people here, you know, that. And she's still writing the next book, so it's like just I'm just going away now.
I know the feeling.
Oh, but this was so good. Oh my goodness. So is this your debut, or do you have other titles out?
This is my debut. It's not the first book I ever wrote. I wrote 3 other books before this one that I didn't get an agent with. And then this was the 4th one that I wrote that finally got me an agent, and also the one that eventually sold. And so this is the first one. The Crow Rider will be the second one, and then hopefully after that there will be more.
So are you writing any other books?
Yeah, I'm working on a few things right now. I don't have anything official yet with my publisher. We're working on that. But I'm working on a few different projects right now. One young adult book, one middle grade book, and one adult book. I'm kind of just all over the place right now.
Hey, it's good to be versatile, especially nowadays. You know, there's a lot of young adult authors that are tipping their toes and or dipping their toes into, the adult with was it Sarah Jane Maas? But her stuff
Mhm.
was more higher YA anyway, and then of course Leigh Bardugo and
Yeah,
a
definitely.
couple others.
And it
So
keeps
I
things
think the other one
interesting.
was yeah. So definitely awesome. So why crows?
Oh yes. Okay, so I'm strange. I think they're adorable. Most people don't agree with me on that, but I think that crows are super cute. But I've always been fascinated by them because they're really, really intelligent animals. I've read a lot of scientific studies on them about like the way that they think and how intelligent they are. But what really spurred the story was an article that I read about a little girl who fed her neighborhood crows, and in return they would bring her gifts.
Oh,
This was
I remember
like
seeing that
yeah,
forever
like
ago.
early
Yeah.
2010s, like somewhere around there. It was a long time ago, but it stuck with me. Um, and I ended up writing a short story about a princess trapped in a tower, and the crows that brought her pieces of the world. And I kind of thought that that was the end of it. I was like, all right, you had this in your head and you got it down. But I couldn't get past the idea of a magic system based on crows. It wouldn't get out of my head. So I started to think like, well, what would a society whose entire way of life was based on that look like? And that's kind of where the book started.
I really like that a lot of stories that, you have like the sun crows and the storm crows and everything else, that tends to get very repetitive. Like the Truth Witch series, I
Mhm.
didn't get very far through that one because every 5 seconds it's always like the wind witches or the storm witches, and it was I was like, I don't want to hear that word anymore. I think you did an amazing job with this, with not having that being very repetitive. That when it came up, it fit the storyline. It wasn't just, every 2 pages we had something dealing with something crow. It was very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I had the benefit of the fact that, and this is not a spoiler because it's the start of the book, they all get destroyed. So I didn't really have a lot to reference to. Susan Dennard has created like an incredible magic system that I am jealous of. And she weaves it really, really well into her story. And I think that it requires her reference to those a lot so that you're not like, oh, what are we talking about? Versus I
Right.
could just be like, they're all gone.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna solve this problem. I'm just gonna kill everybody off. It's done. I don't have
Yeah,
to worry
don't worry
about it
about the
anymore.
magic system, it's gone.
I love the story that gets told in this about like their history of where the crows had come from. That
Mm.
was so beautiful. How much research and how much did you have to do to come up with all of that?
Um, that was probably one of the hardest parts of the world for me because I changed what I decided to do a lot in big ways and in small ways to the point where like I couldn't even if you asked me now what exactly we were just talking about this before the show started what I can and can't remember what exactly I decided on. I can tell you the overarching thing, but I would have to read the book again to know which details I decided were like, okay, this is how this lore is going to look. And part of that is because I wrote a duology, and because it's a duology, I had limited space to build the world while still focusing on the story and not overwhelming the reader with like, here's 15 pages of backstory about where magic came
Right.
from. And in the second book, I had planned to focus a lot on that, and after writing it realized that there wasn't enough room in the second book to really focus on that, and ended up almost completely redoing the sequel to focus more on Thia and her crow's relationship. um, but I still have this notebook full of here is every detail that I ever came up with for why this exists and how it came to be. So I knew from the
Wow.
beginning like where all that magic came from and how it worked. And I'm a really big fan of taking a magic system and either saying, here's where it came from, or here's a way of using it that you didn't think of before because I'm the author and I made you focus on this one over here.
Because I can do what I want.
Yeah.
Well, I loved it. I love that whole. I mean, anytime that you gave information about like where the crows came from or their powers or anything, it didn't feel like info dumping. It fit, where you put it in the story. I mean, it was just so seamlessly done.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, thank you.
oh,
I think I also have the
bravo.
benefit of the extra material in the back. I've had a lot of readers tag me in posts being like, I really like the world building, and then I discovered this whole compendium at the end that like explains everything even more. And I kind of wish that we had a little message in the front that was like, hey, if you'd like this while you're reading along,
I'm kind of happy that was not at the front of the book, because anytime I see those, I get very scared. Because it's why I don't read adult fantasy, because they want to add like 80,000 characters and take you in like 50,000 directions, and it's very easy to get confused. Anytime I see those where I feel like I need a flow chart, I get very scared. Like, am I gonna know? Am I gonna remember by the time I get to the next chapter? Am I gonna remember everybody from the first chapter?
I know what you mean. World building is my favorite part of writing, and so I personally love all of that stuff. But I totally understand what you're saying. I think that for me, I prefer when those turn out to be extra information that you can get after the story. Like, you don't need this to enjoy the book, but when you're done, if you want to know more, here's where you can go to get it. And I think that's where I really fall in love with those parts.
Oh, this is so good. It's like I'm just like, oh, like, okay, I'm gonna get done with this and I'm gonna start book 2. And I'm very excited that is like the end, and that I don't have to be like, okay, where's book 3?
Yep.
Like, I need it now. Oh, goodness. So in the story, of course, Thia deals, and it is Thia, right?
Yes.
So how do you pronounce her full name instead of just her nickname?
Her full name is Anthia, and fun fact about that, her name actually used to be Thia, and her nickname was Anna, but my marketing team was concerned that saying Princess Anna would make people think of Frozen, and so I had to change it.
Right.
Which was really weird initially, because she was Anna in my head for so long, and it took a good year before I would actively think of her as Thia.
Oh, crazy. But in this story, of course, she, sees all this devastation happen right in front of her, and then it jumps, I think, 6 months in the beginning of the book, where everything has gone past. And she really deals with having depression and PTSD with fire and everything through this book. How much did you have to go through to create her? I mean, she's such a strong character, and she doesn't take anybody's crap. But yet on this side, she stayed in bed for 6 months, and she definitely was afraid of fire and everything.
Yeah. Thia's depression was, I would say, the second pillar of the story. The first one being the crows, the second one being her depression. I had been going through something similar in my life when I got the idea for this book, and writing it kind of became therapeutic. And I was dealing a lot with understanding what depression meant, and experiencing a lot of the misconceptions that people have about it, including that being depressed makes you weak, which is not true. And that's kind of one of the central things that I wanted to challenge with Thia's character. She's one of the strongest characters I've ever written. Like you said, she doesn't take crap from anybody. But that doesn't change the fact that she was suffering from depression, and some days she couldn't get out of bed. That didn't make her weak. It just meant that she had something that she was fighting through. And it felt both a conscious choice, because I wanted to process that through a character, and a subconscious choice in that it seemed impossible to me that she could face what she faces in the prologue and just bounce right back. She loses too much at the start of the book to just glaze over it and be like, all right, time for revenge. Which actually turned out to be one of the biggest challenges of the story, maintaining a at least decently paced plot while still giving her struggle the respect and time that it deserved. And I think because of that, the book is a little bit on the slower end, especially in the first half. But it felt the only appropriate way to write it.
I didn't think it was slow at all. Somebody from my virtual book club said that it kind of slowed down in parts, and I think it had very good pacing. It had its action parts, it had its slower parts where you were learning more about the characters and everything else. But I think it had very good pacing. I didn't feel like it was stagnant at all.
Thank you.
Of where I've read books, and I'm like, okay, come on, let's go, let's get to the point. This one was not like that at all. It was perfect.
Oh, awesome.
I do like one part in the story. I was taking photos of quotes so I can add it. I use an app called Bookly, to keep track of like how fast I read stuff, and I can add quotes to it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a picture of it. I'll add it later. And it's where she's talking with, is it Kalyn? How do you pronounce this name? Kalyn. Yes.
2 for 2. Or 3
I'm
for 3,
so
I guess.
excited when I pronounce characters' names correctly. That is a good day. When I don't mess up the titles, it's a great day too.
You're not the only one. I had to say a lot of these names for the first time out loud for my audiobook narrator, and I realized that I'd never said them out loud, and so I went to go say them for her, and I was like, wait, give me a second.
Like, well, that's not right. Well, I went, I think it took me about 3 weeks to get through Bonecryer's Moon, and for most of that, I was calling it Bonecryer's War, and I'm like, I'm looking at the title, at the spine, and still calling it the wrong thing, and I'm like, oh my god. It's fun. Then another one, Agnes at the End of the World, I was calling her Angus through all the books up to the last 2 chapters. So it's a good day. I got everybody's names right so far. But anyway, she's talking to him, and she found the picture that he drew of her, and he asks her what she sees, and she says weakness. And I really liked what he said, that I see someone who cares about something enough to worry about it so strongly she loses herself in it. And I'm like, I think that really speaks to what depression is for a lot of people, you know, that you care so much about one thing and you stress about it so much you lose yourself in it completely and you can't really do anything else. And that she had lost, you know, that Thea had lost herself in the grief of everything that had happened in the prologue, which that prologue, whoa. I mean, I wrote in my notes on this application, because you can write thoughts on here, and I am just like, holy crap, now that's a prologue. Because I mean, usually a prologue is maybe a page and a half or so. At yours, I think it's like 3 or 4 pages. And that was like, you did not hold back. It is just like boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, especially the explosion part.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm reading this and I'm like, okay, so I wonder like how long this is going to be before something, you know, what's going to happen, you know? And then, oh, I smell fire. What's going on? Woo, engulfed in flames. Holy crap!
Yeah, it's interesting because when I queried the book and got my agent, I didn't have the prologue at that time. And one of her biggest pieces of feedback was that because the story started pretty much with the same first chapter that it currently has. The crows are already gone. And she was like, that's one of the biggest parts that hooked me into the story, was the idea of these crows, but I never get to see them. Because the whole story is about bringing them back. And she's like, well, what do you think about showing not only what the world looked like beforehand, but showing that moment that they lose everything, since that is really the catalyst for the entire book. And basically we decided, we're like, well, I'd have to do a prologue then. And you know how people feel about prologues. But after I wrote it out, it was clear that the story really, really needed that. And it did exactly what we hoped it did, and giving people an idea of what the world looked like. And so they really understood what that loss meant to Thia.
Right. I mean, it pulls you in, and by the time that you are done with that prologue, you're like, okay, let's go. What's happening? Come on.
I either get that or I get lots of people yelling at me for what I did. My mom texted me when she was reading, and she was like, what did you do to the crows? I'm like, Mom, it's the entire premise of the book. So you knew this was coming.
You knew it was there. I have a love-hate relationship with prologues, because there's been some where like it starts and you fall in love with the characters that are in the prologue, and then you start the story and it's like about somebody else completely, because like years have passed and they're like, hey, what's going on? Yeah. No. Go back this way. Oh man, what is this book? Let's see. So out of these characters, you have this light. I kind of call it like it's love triangle light. Because I don't know what they really call it, because it's not technically love triangle, because not everybody's in love with everybody else. It's like this person facing this person, these other 2 people like each other. So why did you decide to have, okay, let's see if I get his name right. Is it, I forgot how it was spelled. I was like, crap.
Do you want me to say it, or do you want to try?
Maybe I'm going to glitch myself here. Let's see. Where's his name in here? See, this is where this kingdom thing comes in handy in the back of here. Because now I don't have to, like,
go straight to his.
Run through all this. All right, so is it Erican?
Arison.
Arison? Okay. Well, I was thinking it was kind of like Eric, and then just had, like, the extra. Okay, so Arison.
Actually, when I first came up with it, it was Eris was the name I thought of. And then, like, Erice. And then I realized the name of the Rhodarian capital was Aris, Aris. So,
like, here, we'll just name you after the capital. You'll be fine.
Your enemy kingdom. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
Right. That might have been slightly confusing.
Just a little bit, yeah. But in terms of the relationship, my real answer to this is a spoiler for the second book. So I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to tell people what I was trying to do. Maybe like a year after the second book has been out when I'm allowed to, like, say spoilery things. But what I can tell you is that I never meant for anyone to think that Thia was interested in Arison in the first book.
No, she's not. Like, you can't, she is not. She has come to care for him as a friend, and maybe, like, a combatant in arms type thing. She doesn't want to see anything bad happen to him, but she does not love him in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly. And that is what I was going for, which is why when you say love triangle-ish, I would get into debates with my roommate about this. He was like, you wrote a love triangle. And I'm like, no, I didn't. But
let's call it love triangle light.
Yeah, I think if you look it up, technically the definition of a love triangle does include two people liking the same person. So by the definition, did I write a love triangle?
It is technically a love triangle.
Did I write it traditionally the way people think of? No. And part of that is because Thia can't like Arison that way. I mean, a huge part of her story is figuring out how to look at him as a person and not as her enemy. And she barely reaches a friendship level with him by the end of the book. And I know a lot of people ship the two of them, but the idea of her, like, being with him in the first book, it's impossible. She can't where she is in her mind and her journey. And in comparison, I think that her and Caliz's relationship was born by a shared understanding of where they both were mentally and emotionally. And the time they spend together, they help each other grow and move forward.
I love him and his little kitty cat.
I know, kitty cat.
But yeah, I mean, I think it works. It works because you've got, because you don't really get to see Arison all that much in the book. He's either off doing stuff that his mom had made him do, or he's off screen somewhere doing who knows what. And we get him every couple of chapters or so, and he's usually very snarky and doing stuff he shouldn't be doing or apologizing.
Yeah, for something he did.
That's all he kind of does in this book, or stands there and gazes tentatively out.
Yeah.
And so it's like when they were up in the tower and all that went down, and then of course he kind of not exactly loses his crap, but he's not exactly happy. I felt kind of bad for him, like after everything that had happened, and but I understand it, okay, you let your mother have her put her hand in the fire knowing what it meant, and you didn't try and stop it. How do you expect somebody to love you romantically if you're not willing to stand up for them?
Exactly.
So do we get to see more of him, and hopefully he pulls a certain appendage out of his other appendage and starts thinking for himself.
You definitely see a lot more of him in the second book. I also, like I mentioned, part of the pre-order campaign is a scene from his point of view, to be read after reading the sequel, I will say, because it's spoilery. But his story is actually one of my favorite. People ask me a lot, like, what influenced you? What inspired this or inspired that? And, back to our point about having absolutely no memory, which I don't have. I very rarely have direct inspiration.
So feel you on that. Yeah. You have officially become my spirit animal, because people ask me about books and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I got nothing.
Yeah. I don't remember things well. And see, I already lost my train of thought. No. So I didn't have like a thing that I watched or read or whatever and was like, oh, I love that concept, I want to explore it myself. But looking back, I see a lot of, if you're familiar with Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender,
mm-hmm.
I see a lot of his character arc in Aerosyn. That struggle between honor
like that good and evil thing.
Yeah, that he's grown up in, what he's been told is true compared to what he's experienced and what he's seeing for himself, and that struggle between the two. And the Stormcrow kind of ends in a pivotal moment for him regarding that. And I think it's a little ambiguous what he is thinking in that time. But you see a lot more of that arc in the second book.
I'm hoping. It's like all these characters, and I'm like dying because just like you want them to make the right choice, and it's like killing you because you more than likely know that they're not gonna make the right choice, and it's just gonna end so badly. Oh, it's so reading is so stressful these days. Oh, it gets to the point where you just want to kind of hop in the book and just slap them upside the head. What you thinking?
Seriously, it would help me write it too. Like, what are you doing?
That would be convenient if you just like hop into your character's mind. There's something for AI, you just put all this stuff in here, you fill out a quiz, what would your this character do, and then you can just put them in a situation that plays out the way that however they would actually do it.
Perfect.
That would be nice.
It would.
Let's see. So, of course, we've all been in COVID and everything else. Have you gotten a lot of writing done?
Oh, on and off. So I work for my day job as a technical writer. So I am still working like normal at home, and I live with 4 of my very good friends in the same house. So it's a lot of competition for my time. And then there's my cats that, can't even leave me on a phone call for an hour. So I've gotten writing done in bursts, but there's definitely been a bit of a struggle both to find time and the headspace to think creatively when the world's on fire.
Right, when the world is imploding. From like all sides. I've been seeing all these things on Facebook and stuff, and it's like memes is like, okay, who had this for June? You win the pot. It's like, great. It's gonna happen for July.
Mm-hmm.
July is my birthday month, and my birthday month is cursed. All the bad things happen in July. So I'm like, okay, guys, it is about to get real. So be warned.
Oh, sorry, he's attacking my headphones now.
Oh.
Stop it.
Oh, cats are fun, though.
Mm-hmm.
Cats are fun.
Definitely.
So we have a write-in question. Somebody wants to know what is on your shirt.
Oh, the cat might be blocking it now, but it's an octopus with a submarine helmet.
Oh, that's cool.
So one of my family nicknames is Kraken, which is very random, and it's from my brother-in-law, who I love dearly, and who we have a very good relationship. And I say that to preface this story because it's going to sound like we don't. But there was a period of time in college when my sister lived down the street, and so I would go to her apartment and watch movies with them almost every weekend. And at the end of every movie, he would start referring to me as whoever the villain was in that movie. That'd be my name for the week. And we watched Wrath of the Titans, and that has the giant kraken in it.
Right.
And that one just stuck, and now I have endless amounts of octopus things in my room, and people buy me octopus things like this shirt.
Oh, that's cool though. At least it's a cool nickname.
True, yeah. It makes me sound really intimidating.
Right. See, well, there's something for a next book. Do that with a kraken. See, I still like what you how this book had started out with, like the girl in the tower and stuff. You could do like a Rapunzel retelling with that. Yeah. That would be kind of cool.
Something just fell in my room. That was weird. Yeah, actually, I did. Here, let me grab it. I have some of the extra camera book covers, and in one of them, I actually hand wrote the original story, and I'm gonna attach it to an actual book, and then do a giveaway with it at some point.
Did you do all the artwork in that too?
Yeah, we can call it artwork. The crows are stamps.
Oh, okay. That's so pretty though.
Thank you.
If I tried to do that, nobody would be able to read it. Like, I was getting so confused with like the author chat thing has exploded. I went from doing like one show a week to now I'm doing 3 shows a week, and I accidentally double booked somebody.
Oh no!
Like, I didn't write all this down, so I was writing all down. Then I went to change notebooks. I couldn't read my own handwriting.
Oh no!
So, like, I'm just gonna type it up on the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I worry about that. Sometimes I do annotated. Sometimes I do annotated copies, and I'm always like, "Oh, are you gonna be able to read this?"
That's so cool. What is also cool, I've done these in the past where they would take a book and you would have like a group of people that you would send it to, and then through the book all of us readers would like jot down our thoughts and circle passages that we really liked and stuff, and then we would send it to the author.
Oh, that's so cool.
For something to you to keep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Stuff in it. I love that. It was so much fun.
That's a good idea.
Right? Need to resurrect that just like after COVID, so we don't like ship COVID covered books. Yeah. That would be bad. How did the disease spread? Oh, by books. We're sorry. So what about reading? Have you been reading anything interesting lately?
Yeah, I've actually been reading a lot of adult fantasy. What have I read recently? I read Gideon the Ninth, which is the weirdest, most amazing book I've read in a long time. Weird in a like fantastic way. Like, it's a wild ride. The Wolf of Oren Yarrow, which was a really, really fascinating book that was very character focused. And then right now I'm reading Steel Crow Saga, which is literally like Legend of Korra meets Pokemon, and it's fantastic.
That's an interesting depiction.
I know, but it's if you read it, you'll be like, "Yep, that's exactly what this is."
That's funny. So going into finishing a duology, why did you choose to do it as a duology, or is that just kind of what happened?
A little bit of both. It's kind of hard to measure the extent of a story sometimes for me. Sometimes when I come up with an idea, I'm like, okay, that's going to sustain one book, or I'm like, all right, that could go on for a while or something. And with this one, I think I only had enough story for 2 books, but I had enough world for 3. Like I said earlier, basically what happened when I first wrote the sequel was there was too much world building. It was too much for one book. It almost needed to be like all introduced in the second book and then like come to fruition in the third book, which doesn't exist. And so because of that, I had to scale back the focus on the world building and instead, zero in on, like I said, the Crow and Thia's relationship. But another part of it is what your publisher will take.
Right.
My publisher did ask whether I thought it would be a duology and a trilogy, or a trilogy, and I said a duology. But sometimes for authors, they don't have a choice. The publisher will say, we're only taking 1 book, or you have to give us 3 books. Especially in the early 2010s, a lot of publishers were basically asking for trilogies. And so sometimes it's not up to the author.
Right. You should take all that extra world building you did and do like a little mini Bible or something for it, and like post that, or
that'd be cool.
Because that would be interesting to read. Because I really love that story that you did in this one. But I mean, if book 2 is anything like book 1, it's perfect and it doesn't need anything else. So
thank you.
Oh, I love good books.
Me too.
And I love that I get to read the next one when I'm done. I've been reading nothing but like big series lately. So it's like anytime that I do one of these shows and I'm like, okay, hey, is this a series or a standalone? And they're like, oh, it's a standalone or it's a duology. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's refreshing sometimes just to have a short story. Short,
right?
Fantasy, so it's never really short.
But don't worry about it. Now let's talk prequels. I would love to have a prequel of the evil queen lady that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her name.
It's Rhodaire.
Rhodaire, okay. I don't remember what I was calling her, but I tend to skim names, and I just know who I'm talking about. You know, it's weird. Probably how I read so fast. I'd probably like miss every third word or something. But yes, I would love to have like a prequel story to her, like before she became queen and went through all the stuff of, you know, her husband and everybody dying and bad ways.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
I would really like to write that, actually. I mean, Rhodaire was a more complex character than I thought that she was going to be when I first started writing. I knew I wanted kind of the classic big bad to be the villain, but when I started digging into her motivations, it felt a lot like she was a foil for Thia. They go through very similar things and then diverge completely on the paths that they take in response. And exploring just how vastly different people can react to similar scenarios was a lot of what inspired her character. And I would love to dig into that more. Though, you know, prequels are always a struggle because people know how they end. You know.
That makes it awesome though, because it's like there's been a few books that, like, I think Forest of Lantern and something where you know she's gonna be turned evil.
Yeah.
But you just don't know why yet.
Yep.
And then there's Heartless by Marissa Meyer that she redid, the Red Queen. It's like, you know, think it's gonna turn out badly. But even though you know, it gets to the point, you know, where she's going from good to evil, and you're like screaming like, no, don't go that way.
You're still rooting for him.
You know, and you know it's not going to happen, but you still hope anyway. So it's like it's one of those things, you know, that you authors make us fall in love with these characters, and you turn them evil. I love it. Love it. Oh. Let's see. Well, that is all of my questions that I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Cannot wait. Send me the pre-order link so I can pre-order you.
I will.
Because I need that in print. And I'm so happy that I have this, because this is amazing. And you signed it. So it's my new baby now. Was this always the cover, or did it have a different one?
That was always the cover. It showed up in my inbox at work, and I made some unprofessional sound out loud. And my manager was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Look."
You're so pretty. I love what they did underneath this, though.
I know, it's so gorgeous.
I didn't notice that until today. I was reading it because I left the cover on it, and I was like, wait a second, what's that? Because you can see it on the inside at the bottom. And I was like, oh wait, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I was very, very pleasantly surprised when they told me they were doing that.
Usually you don't get stuff underneath the dust jacket. So.
Yeah, it's always a fun surprise.
So actually, I do have one other question. I remembered the other question I was going to ask. For Crow, how do you pronounce his name?
Oh, Rhodaire.
Rhodaire, okay. So she just calls him Rez after that.
Yeah, there's
go ahead. I'm guessing he's not your normal Crow.
I can't respond to that.
So, it could just be like a yes or no for this one, because it won't. Is it because he was up in the rookery and everything went down, like he got imbued with everybody else that died, or?
Oh, no, it isn't related to that, but you do get
Okay.
the answer in the second book.
Okay.
And also,
I was like, just waiting for like her to get healed completely, and like she just wakes up like, oh, my stomach now, what's going on?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a big part of the first act of the second book. Because it was introduced in the end of the first book. I didn't want to wait forever for people to be like, well, what's actually happening right now?
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I will talk to you as soon as I end the broadcast. Guys, thank you for watching. If you have any other questions, please hit the author up on Instagram, Twitter, or do you have a Facebook page? Or
no, just Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, so Instagram and Twitter, amazing book. If you don't have it, you need it. Make sure you buy book 2. It comes up the beginning of next month. Gotta read it. It's amazing. It's good. It's awesome. Yes.
Thank you.
You guys can come back tomorrow and talk with Lori Forrest of the Shadow Wand. It is I'm gonna say 5th book in the Black Witch Chronicles. She will be on tomorrow at 7 p.m. EST. Don't miss it. Another great book. Another big book. I swear, young adult books are like getting massive. All right, we'll catch you guys later.